Well, as tensions between Russia and NATO grow over this war in Ukraine and the bloc's possible expansion, President Putin has been hosting the leaders of the Russia-led military alliance. Belarus's Alexander Lukashenko is one of the leaders of the 6 former Soviet states that form the Collective Security Treaty Organization. Meeting at the Kremlin, the summit coincides with the 30th anniversary of the Collective Security Treaty. Other members include Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. But Russia dominates alongside Belarus. So here are the leaders of those two countries and the CSTO Secretary-General.
As for the expansion of the Atlantic Alliance, yes, it's a problem, which is being created completely artificially, in my opinion, in the United States' foreign policy interests. In general, NATO is being used as a one-country foreign policy tool.
It's a time when the world is reshaping. The unipolar world order is becoming a thing of the past. Yet the collective West is waging an aggressive war to defend its positions. It is using all means, including in our organization's zone of responsibility, from threatening the use of NATO weapons along our western borders to waging a full-fledged hybrid war, primarily against Russia and Belarus.
It's difficult to say how it's all going to end, but one thing is obvious. All these steps, including those aimed at expansion of NATO, will lead to an increase of tension in Europe.
Well, let's see what we should make of this meeting of this group that's been referred to as President Putin's pocket NATO. DW's Russia analyst is Konstantin Eggert. He joins us from the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius. Welcome, Konstantin. And we should be clear that this was a scheduled meeting rather than a reaction to the war in Ukraine.
Yes, it is, Phil. This year, the Collective Security Treaty Organization celebrates its 30th anniversary, and, well, maybe they moved it a little bit to kind of coincide with Sweden's and Finland's applications to join NATO, but generally it should have happened, it probably would have happened in the Kremlin, and I think that to a large extent this is yet another sort of talking shop exercise from Putin, who, as you rightly said, likes to demonstrate to Western allies and to the world that he's not alone. And this is exactly what he's been doing in the Kremlin.
OK, so this CSTO, supposedly it's a defensive organisation like NATO, but you're looking at its membership list, Armenia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Russia and Tajikistan. One wonders who they think the enemy is and what this enemy might want from them.
Well, collectively, they don't need to think. Putin thinks for them, or whoever sits in the Kremlin thinks for them. That's the whole design of it. This is an imitation of NATO rather than NATO. There are not many consultations between allies. These allies are disparately different. Well, let's say compared to today's Russia, Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, probably even Kazakhstan, look like fledgling democracies. And I think that of course, most of them do not feel threatened by the North Atlantic Alliance. I think that Kazakhstan has much more concern about, let's say, China or the Islamist fundamentalists, the Taliban in neighboring Afghanistan. Well, at least it's not far away that much. So it is definitely not an organization like NATO in terms of understanding its collective security needs, in terms of even the military readiness of these countries' armed forces. So it is, again, much more a political and symbolic exercise for Putin. And it was always, to a large extent, led by Russia, even when Boris Yeltsin was in power and when Russian designs, let's say, on global security were completely different. And there was cooperation with NATO.
So let's look at what this organisation might be doing. Like Russia, we have Belarus suffering Western sanctions because Russia's invasion was launched partly from its territory. And despite this, despite the sanctions, the Belarusian leader, Alexander Lukashenko, was called on CSTO members to resist Western pressure. Here he is.
Russia and Belarus are being defamed and excluded from international organizations. Yes, the pressure is being exerted, and the pressure is hard and ruthless. The pressure is on you, the CSTO members. For these situations, collective and mutual support does exist. But without the earliest possible cohesion of our countries, without strong ties, we may cease to exist tomorrow.
Konstantin Eggert, is the CSTO's remit likely to broaden beyond military support to include political and economic ties, as we heard suggested there?
I listened to Lukashenko and I thought, okay, what, for example, President Tokayev of Kazakhstan thought when he was listening to that? Ha, 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 he said, no way. Because I think that many of these leaders are actually today afraid of Russia after what it did, not only after what it did in 2014, annexing the Crimea, but especially today, and feel very wary of engaging in any kind of public, political, or not even talking about defense activity with the Russian Federation. So I suppose that Lukashenko has to say that because he is completely, essentially captured by Putin. He's completely dependent on Putin. But even he denies Putin the possibility to launch active military action against Ukraine from Belarusian territory. Belarus is a staging point and, well, let's say support base, but it's not participating in the war because Lukashenko's own military will be extremely unreliable in case he orders them to invade Ukraine and open, let's say, quote unquote, a second front against Kiev. So it's all, frankly speaking, just a talking shop.
All right. Good talking to you as ever, DW Russia analyst Konstantin Eggert.